on me.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Diz After Dark. I'm not sure what episode this is. Mr. Dolan, any idea?
No, it's one more than the last one. I know that for a fact.
One more from the last one.
Yeah.
As you can hear from my voice, I am Nick.
And I am Paul D.
Yes, and we're joined by two people for what is season 4, episode 9. It'd be more professional if I had that going when I first started the show, but that's never been our style. Unfortunately, Mr. Boniface is still away. I believe capturing terrorist Jack Bauer.
I think so. I mean,
yeah.
we never know exactly where he is and what he's doing, but
yeah. But we're pretty confident that's where he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mr. Lucas is driving trains.
Yeah.
Real ones rather than toy ones. But we have not one, but two amazing guests. One who has been a guest before, and one who is new to the show. So I don't mind, guys, between yourselves, introduce yourselves.
All right. Well, I'm Ben Lancaster. I'm the writer-director of The Further Adventures of Walt's Frozen Head, which is an independent film that we shot partially without permission at Walt Disney World. And, Daniel?
Daniel Cooksley, and I got to participate in this fantastic film.
Daniel was the star of the film, with the possible exception of Walt.
Give credit where credit is due, Mr. Disney.
Right.
I mean, obviously, we had been on before when you were still running the Kickstarter for the project. And passed that goal, so that was great. And you recently, how long ago was it? About 3 weeks ago?
About 3 weeks now, yes.
Yeah. The first trailer came out. I'm guessing it's the first trailer. Will there be a trailer a bit later on for the film?
Yes, we're probably going to have 3 trailers total. This is what we're calling our first teaser trailer, and it's partially just a teaser because we don't yet see Walt. And there's some technical reasons for that, but besides that, we haven't cast Walt yet. So that's kind of one of the big reasons we don't see Walt at this point.
That's quite a technical one. And speaking of technical things, I've been left in charge tonight of the Mouse's Head, and I'm the designated driver of not just a car, but also the sound as well. So if you've got any complaints with the quality of this week's edition of Diz After Dark, you can of course contact us via our website at www.disafterdark.com or email us at podcast@disafterdark.com.
And of course, we're on Twitter at DisAfterDark, Facebook.com/DisAfterDark, and various other Instagram, Pinterest, etc.
Yeah, Bebo, I imagine. Bieber. I don't know. Teletext.
Bieber, that's something different.
Yeah, all that kind of crap as well. And before we go on to talk some more about the film, it'd be rude for me to continue the show without asking people what we're drinking tonight.
Well, I'm happy to start. I have a passion fruit and apple cider. It's an old moot cider. So I can't quite come up with a Disney connection to this, but still, cheers everybody.
Sounds great. Ben?
I have a Not Your Father's Root Beer, which I don't see a Disney connection per se, but if they're going to serve anything alcoholic on Main Street, USA, my guess is it would probably be something like this.
And I've actually heard of it. We don't get that in the UK as yet, but I actually listened to another podcast where they were drinking that very beverage, so it sounded quite interesting. So, cool, excellent. Daniel?
I am drinking a double espresso, and the connection with that is I don't think you can really go anywhere without seeing a Starbucks.
In Walt Disney World these days, that's true.
Exactly.
And as I am Des, I am with a Pepsi Max Cherry, or as our American friends call it, Wild Cherry Pepsi Max. No, Wild Cherry Pepsi, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one. But yeah, so we've already started to discuss it, and as backers ourselves of the project, very excited to see the teaser trailer. And I've got to be honest, when we had you on, what was it, about 7-8 months ago now, possibly? And I mean, the idea of the film, which we'll talk about again in a minute for people that may not have heard the first show, but the original concept of the film, sounded great, really funny, a nice, interesting twist on the kind of stories about, what happened to Walt when he passed away. And, we liked the idea. We wanted to help with the Kickstarter campaign, but to be honest, the trailer that came out, blown away by. Really, really impressed with the quality of it all.
Wow, you scared the way it was setting up there. I didn't know if it was. It's just like, oh, you know what? The pitch was good, and we loved it. All right, so good. You had me on.
And then we contacted Kickstarter to see if we can get our money back. There was that hadn't been possible.
I know that me and Mr. Dolan do come across as Stadler and Waldorf sometimes, but even we wouldn't be doing that. This is not like the backlash that's happening with another Disney project at the moment, the dark side of Disney, which doesn't seem to be pleasing the Disney community as much as it probably should have done. But no, I mean, it's. I was always interested in seeing what you did with the story, and we keep kind of tiptoeing around this. So for those people that didn't hear our first show and hear you talk about it the first time, can you please tell us a little bit more about the film?
Well, the premise of the film starts off at the very beginning by establishing that Walt has been cryogenically frozen, at least his head has, and every year they thaw him out to get his direction for the company for the next year. And, essentially they get one weekend with Walt a year, but they don't ever let him up to see the park that he created. So he's beneath the Magic Kingdom and is not allowed to go upstairs, if you will, and see the vision that he had in the head for Walt Disney World. And one fateful evening, Daniel's character Peter wanders down into the utilidors and stumbles across Walt, who is in the middle of this weekend of being allowed to be thawed out, and Walt convinces Peter to take him up and show him the park for the first time.
It's a great idea.
And I mean, not only is it a great idea, but I mean, I've seen a little bit of the Behind the Magic, to reference another podcast, of what you've done and how you've been able to do that. But the scenes in the trailer where it's the underground of the park, if I didn't know any better, I could quite believe that is where you actually filmed it.
Good job, Ben.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
we had an excellent production designer, and we had an excellent director of cinematography who both really went above and beyond in creating the look of that type of area. And besides that, we just had locations that absolutely fell into place at the right time for us to be able to film in them. So I can't take all the credit.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. At the moment, we've got yourself on this show and the lead actor. No one else is involved with the production. So who's going to argue about how much credit you want to take?
Oh, fair point. Okay, I'll take 90, and Daniel can take 10 for how the utilidors looked.
You know what? It's funny to shooting in those locations. The beauty of being an actor is that one of the things that you really have to do is trust your director and trust his vision, because I don't necessarily see what the camera is seeing, and being in these locations. So shooting, to do a film and then to go back and see it, I forget, so as I'm watching that trailer, just in that short amount of time, even though I was there obviously and I did it, the picture that's being painted with that camera, it was amazing to see just that little snippet of it. So it's pretty incredible to get lost in that, really, so for myself. So that must be a nice treat, hopefully, for those who who actually do see it, if any of that makes sense.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, obviously this is not in the same at the same level at all, but I know what you mean about when you see something after the event. You've not, you were there at the time, and then you go back and see it a long time afterwards. Because even with something simple like a video that you shoot on your holiday, so I filmed a lot while I was on our honeymoon, and we honeymooned at Disney World and Orlando and parts around there, and watching the video afterwards, like a few months down the line, and I was filming a lot of it, but you forget certain bits and pieces. Some of it is still clear as day, but other things you go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So, that, for most people, it is something that we can relate to, but from your point of view and being an actor and it being a production, even more.
Absolutely, and it's such a treat. It's it's because I hate seeing myself on screen, and it allows me to really escape into that, and I'm not necessarily watching myself per se. I'm watching this story that's being unfolded, and I love it, and I can't wait to see the finished product. Honestly.
And Ben, am I right in thinking? I'm sure I read this somewhere that this is your first production, your first major production.
This is.
I'm sorry. Who was that?
Daniel's.
No, yours, Ben.
No, this is actually my third feature film, but this is definitely the biggest and most ambitious one that I've worked on.
Let me go and find the person that told me that so I can shoot them.
Okay.
But carry on.
He may be shooting somebody else right now, I think.
Yeah.
And then Daniel has had a fairly extensive career in theater here in Orlando specifically.
And this was my first feature. I had been a part of several shorts, and as Ben mentioned, I've been in the theater community for a good 14 years in Orlando. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to make a really crappy joke, so carry on.
Okay. And so being in Orlando for that amount of time, I've worked at Disney, not necessarily as one of the Disney employees. I worked for a subcontract company that did the bird show there, but I was around it. But there's a sense of representing Florida and Orlando and Disney in that sense that I maybe it's just something that I put on my own, but it's like, wow, because I just judging off of the response from the trailer, which in a matter of a couple of days, we exploded over like 10,000 views. I'm not even sure what it's up to now, but there's a sense of almost like, okay, now all eyes are on this film, and the beauty of it is that I think that we have that it's been constructed in a sense that it doesn't bash anything about Disney. It's not there. It doesn't paint a bad picture. I think it's a beautiful story. So for me to have this my first feature film, I couldn't be more pleased and more excited to be truthful.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I was the crappy joke that I was going to make when you said about appearing in several shorts is that's similar to my experience in Orlando when I went to Universal and was on the Popeye ride. I think I went through several pairs of shorts that day.
Okay, on the Popeye ride, huh? Wow.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously the person that sits in the wrong place every time because I'd never been as wet in my life.
Oh, I
as
see.
being on that ride. Oh yeah, okay. Not the other
reason
reason
why.
It
scared you.
No. I mean, I am the pussy of the team. I've demonstrated that quite a few times. Like I've never been on the Hulk, but even I can tolerate that kind of thing. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you said that that the film obviously isn't in any way anti-Disney, and it doesn't seem to be from the trailer. But has there been any reaction from the Disney company? I mean, have you, or even from people who work for the company, have you had any kind of reaction to the trailer and the progress of the project?
We've been keeping our ear pretty close to the ground, and thus far we've not heard anything. Mm-hmm. My guess is that they're taking the approach of not wanting to give us the free publicity, which is probably the one that is going to suit them the best. So we'll see. I hope they continue with that policy because that makes life a little bit easier for us.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
And as for myself, being in the acting community in Orlando, I know many people who have, who have worked for the company and who are very passionate, about Disney, and they are crazy excited to see it. Very personal friends that work there say, okay, keep us in the loop, and they're following on Twitter and Facebook, and there hasn't been one. There's a couple of like Facebook groups that I did share the trailer with. And only one came back where the lady, she was a little, she's like, well, what, we don't allow anything that was not recognized by the park. I mean, it wasn't necessarily bashing per se, but as for negative feedback, that's all I've seen. And I'm pretty tight with the Orlando community.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because I think that's always, as Paul said, one of those things that when you, and I was discussing this concept with some friends a few months ago, and our friend is very obsessed with Walt Disney, has always been obsessed with Walt Disney. I mean, with everything to do with Disney, but with the man himself as well, and explain this kind of concept. And it was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But that's the thing. I think when you see the execution of it, it's slightly different. So, for that reason, I think I'd like to think that people can see that it's a tribute more than, I don't know, what, a piss take? I don't know.
Absolutely.
An insult,
Absolutely. And something, for myself, see, I grew up in California, and right outside of Anaheim, where the, obviously Disneyland is located. And I have a couple of memories of Disneyland when I was a kid, but I did not, I'm 43 now, and I don't know if they've just been locked away or not in a bad way, but honestly, going to Disney when I was when we went in to do our thing, it really brought back so many memories. And I remember pulling Ben aside when we were going to It's a Small World, because I hadn't been on, even though I was employed at Animal Kingdom, I never went to any of the other parks.
Wow.
And so anyway, going into It's a Small World, there's that one very the traditional, Ben, I'm sure you could, the rocking thing right out in front of the entrance. It's the smile, the clock.
The clock tower, yeah.
Yeah, the smiling thing. No, the clock. And it immediately took me back to being, 6-7 years old, and just being there and in the story that we're telling, as the actor, like trying to understand, to dissect the script and dissect where these characters are coming through in the story that's being told. It's really a beautiful, beautiful story. And so in addition to, reading the script and then going into the park, it was beautiful. It was such a nostalgic feeling for me. And it really, pushed and brought back memories as a kid. So that is when I knew that it's like, okay, well, that we're doing something that, I think that will really reach a lot of people, that, it is a touching and warm story. And so really, it would be hard for me to think that there would be any backlash from anybody about it.
Yeah. Oh, you'll always find ways to get somebody offended. We've done it numerous times. You think, well, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it has been because we've been out of line, but other times when it's like, really, that's the thing that's bothering you.
Yeah,
Never mind.
True. So,
go on, Paul.
I was just going to say, when you were shooting in the park, those sort of sequences. I mean, obviously you were being somewhat covert there.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a challenge has that been, and did you hit any particular problems or any particular situations when you were filming in the park?
It all really came down to planning, and I think those few days we did shoot in the park or on property were our most planned days, certainly, even though we had a very small crew and a very small number of people. We have a text chain somewhere of of what everyone was saying, and it was go or now, or we had our scouts looking for security guards who were paying us too much attention and that sort of thing. But it really came down to a lot of pre-planning and knowing exactly what we needed to get, so that once we got it, we knew we were allowed to move on, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So we had sort of the protocols in place for we disperse and then we come back and that sort of thing. But that was really part of the fun for us. It was definitely a challenge to see if we could do it. Obviously, we didn't shoot as much as like Escape from Tomorrow did. Where their literal entire film was shot in the parks.
Yeah.
But it was something that we wanted to definitely try. So.
I've still not got around to watching that film actually. I meant to because it was on Netflix, but I never did. Did you actually get to see that before as part of your kind of prep for this?
Yeah, I had seen it before, and really even before we had started making the project, I had checked it out.
Yeah, I think I started watching it and
Yeah,
give up on it a bit, really.
Okay, kind of like that, is it? I like the way Ben, as a filmmaker, has kind of decided not to really make any kind of judgment on that film, which could be wise. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like the integrity there.
I don't want to. It was a film that was not made for the Disney fan community. It was made for people sort of outside of that, and I think it kind of shows. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but I think a lot of people within the Disney fan community weren't as thrilled about it for that reason, among a few others.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a massive fan. Now, let me rephrase that. I used to be a massive fan of the 1989 comedy, loosely comedy, Weekend at Bernie's. And when I first heard you talk about this, that was the first thing that came into my head was, that. Did you use that film and the performances as inspiration?
I can't speak to the performances, Daniel. Was that something that ever crossed your mind?
I honestly no, which is funny. It was I was a big fan of the film back in the 90s. That Mannequin, and the list could go on. But no, I didn't really.
I can definitely see the connection.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's also that kind of comedy style at parts of it. That sort of over the top farcical thing. But I hadn't even thought about that.
But I had to communicate with them. They didn't necessarily have communication with
Right.
Bernie Lomax, I think his name was. But the communication, having to communicate with a box, and it was because I've had friends and people that well, how was that? And it was right off the bat, everybody immersed themselves in this false reality of what we were doing. By that I mean like myself and then the rest of the crew, and we're carrying around this bag with its quote unquote Walt, and it was by the end of the first day, it was as if he was a person. That's like, all right, you got Walt, you're going to carry Walt. I got Walt. All right, who's going to take Walt? And it was, I think, in that sense, when you're around everybody if you were the only, even as an actor, but if you were the only one that was necessarily recognizing this as trying to convey that this is a real person, and everybody else is just like not giving into that. But it was. But I don't necessarily think that anybody was making a choice. I just think inadvertently, everybody started just that was Walt, and then by the end of the run, he was a fixture. This, either the bag or this the apparatus that was made that constructed to hold his head. So to get lost in that, I never really associated it with Weekend at Bernie's.
I hate to burst your bubble, Daniel, but some of that was actually intentional. Me and Tyler had actually talked about beforehand how we were going to sort of create that reality on set. And I'm glad to hear that it actually sort of worked out that way.
See,
No.
it
was, yeah, there was.
awesome.
So, Walt was on the call sheet every day under actors, and just several other little details that we did intentionally to make sure that it was seen as sort of an actor instead of a prop.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's and obviously it worked, and that's that's pretty amazing. I guess it's no different than, you going on set and people recognizing you as your character's name, instead of your given name. Whether it's something that is done, like I said, on purpose, or if it's done inadvertently, as the actor, it's just a little easier to lose yourself in that. Good times.
Yeah.
I was going to tell the one story about not almost getting caught, but an interesting event. And Daniel wasn't actually here for this one, but we were shooting with the dad and the little girl scene. Daniel, do you remember that one where we went into the park after shooting one day? I don't think you weren't in the park, but
yeah, I wasn't with you.
We were going to shoot some. Yeah, we were going to shoot some B-roll, and so we were there in the park, and had shot a little before the sun went down. We were waiting for the sun to go down, so we were grabbing dinner at Gaston's Tavern, and we go over there, and I pay for the pork shanks using the then company credit card, which is registered under Just a Head in a Jar LLC.
Awesome.
So I pay for the pork shanks, and I get overcharged, so they have to bring the manager out and take one of they charge me for 4 instead of 5 or instead of 3 or something like that. And the manager comes over and he looks down at the card, and at that moment I realize there's Just a Head in a Jar printed on this card as a business debit card. And he reads it, and I can see him mouth to himself, "Just a head in a jar." He pauses for a second, shrugs his shoulders, and hands it back to me and says, "Have a nice day." But in that moment, I thought, "Oh my goodness, this is going down right here."
The game is up. Yeah. The manager gets on the radio. We've got a code 10 here. Code 10.
So, I mean, Daniel, can I ask how you found it, talking to a prop in that way? Because, I mean, I think, if you've ever seen, if anyone that's listened has ever seen things like The Making of Roger Rabbit, or films like that where somebody's clearly talking to something that's not physically there at the time, it's a lot of hard work, because you've really got to make it appear that you are talking to what you are. So how did you kind of get over that hurdle?
Well, I haven't seen the film, so I don't even know if I got over that hurdle.
Well, let's just assume that you have.
Yes, thank you. I think that it wouldn't be so tough if it was just say, I guess it wouldn't be a conversation if it was one way. But the difficult aspect of it was, like to have that banter back and forth, if there was, and, we always had somebody that was, obvious off in the back, that they would read those lines. And for the most part, there wasn't too much inflection. And kind of meet their level of whatever emotion, or and you can just kind of ride that tide, or vice versa. And so if I was to say what was the most difficult aspect of it, is really trying to put myself in this fake reality of speaking with this gentleman, that's it's not only somebody that's not there, it's somebody that's not there. It's somebody that is in a jar, and it's Walt Disney. It's Mr. Walt. And so trying to put all of that into one, I took it as a wonderful, wonderful challenge, one that I hadn't had in the past. And in the beginning, it was a little difficult. But as it went on, just as much as we all got lost in the fact that there was somebody there, I adapted to it as well. And so we'll see. And just judging by a couple of the where I really felt it was when we had to go in and do some ADR, and it's trying to bring the emotions that were in that scene, and then match what you think the emotions of, say, the head had. And it was no doubt a wonderful challenge, and I appreciate the leg up with that. And hopefully it comes off people can get lost in the fact that, that hopefully they can get lost in it just as much as I did, or or the rest of the crew did, that that he wasn't actually there.
And for those that don't know, ADR stands for
automated dialogue replacement.
So that's where, because I couldn't remember what it stood for, but it's effectively where you would go and re-record dialogue that may not have been captured at the time of recording.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And specifically, we have to do that because we weren't carrying sound equipment into the parks with us. So we were recording all the sound off the onboard mic on the camera, which isn't good enough for the final film. So for those scenes, we have to throw out all the old audio, bring the actors back in, and get them to say their lines matching up to the lip sync on the picture.
Wow, that must be quite a challenge.
I mean, I'm obviously interested a bit in that as well because, I opted for a credit in the film as your silent Foley artist. So obviously the sound of the film is very important to me, and I can't wait to get some studio time in order to record the silent sounds for the film.
Oh, you head over here to Orlando. We'll get you as much silent Foley time as you need.
Sounds like a plan.
Now the Foley booth for the silent Foley is also invisible, so that's going to be a thing. But
and in an unknown location.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like some of the jobs I've done before, actually. Now, Dan, just one quick thing I wanted to ask you as well. You obviously mentioned about the fact that you were quite visible on the theatre scene in Orlando. We have obviously a lot of listeners that go out to Orlando quite often over the years. Is there anywhere that these people could have seen you possibly?
When I was there?
Yes.
In other productions?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, sorry. So I'm talking about the theatre work you were doing. What kind of theatre work was it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've worked in probably most every theater in Orlando at one time or another. I most recently finished a show called The Flick, Annie Baker, and I was actually just nominated in Broadway World for Best Lead Actor in that 2015.
Wow!
Great.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Some noteworthy, or some of the other productions, very proud of. Killer Joe by Tracy Letts, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and yeah, I think that. I mean, I say it with a humble smile that that my name has I've been in hopefully after doing theater in Orlando for 14 years, people would recognize the name, but I'm proud to say that I did make a name for myself there.
That's really good.
Does that answer that question? Did I answer the correct question? Was that the question that was asked? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did have the issue. Do you remember, Daniel, going in on the first day where you were a little too recognizable to the cast member who was operating the Magic Band scanner?
Oh, absolutely. So on that, now I feel a little silly on the answering that question. Am I recognizable enough that when I walk through Disney, people recognize me? I'm sure that there are places that, yes, that I would recognize people, but it's not something that I was necessarily worried about per se. But we did run into a situation. It was our first day that we were going into the park, and as Ben had mentioned, we rehearsed these scenes prior off property in a controlled environment, so we had an idea of what we were going to do, and trying to get everything in one take or as the minimal amount of takes as possible, and so we all had this just this anxious feeling of like what we were doing, and like being cautious about it. It did seem almost like a spy novel, if you will, of like infiltrating a certain area, because we had it choreographed so, so precisely. It's like, okay, Ben's going to be over here. We're going to have the cinematographer, the DP over here. We're going to be over here. And then when you see, when he sees the DP give the signal that it's rolling, he's going to give the action sign. And so it's all triangulated, and we've rehearsed it. And we get it ready. So it's the day of the shoot, and it's first thing in the morning, and we're going up into baggage check, and so everybody's in their positions, and we're nervous and all of that, and I've got my bag, and so we see the go sign, and so I start to move towards the baggage, and I'm passing the camera, and immediately. Security comes up and says, we can't have that camera, not necessarily recognizing the fact that she was capturing me, but they told her that she couldn't film on this side of the security check. If you want to do it on the other side, that's fine. And so I end up going through the baggage check, and now we're getting ready to go and slide, and go through ticketing. And it's been such a long time since I've actually had since I was a kid, I hadn't actually gone through Disney kiosks or anything, and I was amazed the technology that they have now. So this was all new to me because we had to scan your thumb. Well, in one of the scenes, my character comes up with this plan because he is an employee there, and they know his thumbprint or his index fingerprint. So you'll have to see how he does it, but he ends up having to have it wrapped in a Band-Aid so he could use his other finger. Well, we had scouted out the park a couple days prior, just went in as guests, and Ben showed us, this is, where we're going to do this, and that. And we got to bond. The young lady who played my daughter was nice because we got to bond. And so unbeknownst to myself, my fingerprint was already in the system. Okay, so now I have to go in through here, and I'm fully in character. Now, and I've got the camera. It's set up right in front of where I go in, and you have to see me kind of gesturing to the woman at the kiosk or the gentleman at the kiosk. Okay, look, I've got a Band-Aid on my, I need to use my thumb, etc. So. It's a go. Camera's rolling. I'm in line, waiting. I get up, and the gentleman in the kiosk, he says, "What are the odds?" I have no idea what he's talking about. And he's looking at me. He's like, "What are the odds, huh?" And he lifts up his glasses, and honestly, I still did not recognize him. And I'm not dropping character. There's no audio, so you can't hear what's going on. And he says, "Yeah, I was, on your project. I had done a project about 2.5 months prior to that, and he was the DP on that."
What are the chances?
Exactly. And I'm like, oh yeah. Now I'm shaking at this point, because I thought, okay, we're bust. It's our first day of shooting, and we're
this is
already
the second shot too. This isn't just the first day. This is the second shot.
Exactly. And so he's like, then I'd asked if he'd seen any of the footage and he says, "Oh, it's coming along," and it's just small talk. And so I still stay in character. I'm like, oh, I have to use my, thumb because my finger. And he says, okay. And so I go and I use my thumb. Now, the fact that I had already been there, my fingerprint was in the system, so they had to redo it. But I didn't realize that. So he picks up his hand, and I figured out what that meant. And this woman comes up with her clipboard, and I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, okay, we're busted, because I don't know really what. And so as we're doing that, he looks and he says, "Oh, so you've got your girlfriend?" Oh no, he says, "You've got they're filming you." And I said, "Yeah, it's my fiance. She captures everything." And he looks, and he's like, "Tripod, huh?" I'm like, she's very specific, and she's a professional of everything. She just wants to document the day. And be that as it may, the woman comes up, and they had to let the system know that I was changing fingers, in other words. Right. But everything kind of came to a halt. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, the production has come to a halt. We haven't even made it into the park. And so finally that all goes. And I didn't stop. And in my head, once I finally got through, I just thought, okay, I hope that she didn't stop rolling. And so I get into the park, and we had a little meeting place, a rendezvous. And anyway, I go and I get my phone, and all I see on my phone is abort, abort, abort. So my phone was getting this message, but I turned the vibrate off, as I'm going through. And so everybody reconvened, and it seemed like, okay, after that, we weren't caught, and it seemed like it was smooth sailing from there. But we thought that the project was doomed right from the beginning.
Jeez.
But yes, what are the odds in this? Thousands and thousands of people. How many kiosks that I run into somebody who I did a project with, 2.5 months ago.
Of course, once the film's released, then you will be more recognized. You're going to have to employ some of that false mustache type and actor's makeup maybe to stay incognito when you visit the parks, yeah?
Well, hey, hopefully it gets that far. I would love to say that, yes, that's what I have to do now to get into the parks.
Yeah.
I think another thing about this film, which people will be getting excited about, I work in a part of London called Paddington, and for the last few weeks we've had a film crew, and all there've been of these boards, these A-boards everywhere saying major Hollywood production being filmed, be careful in this area if you don't want to partake, blah 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 blah. And I was trying to figure out what it was, and I saw a few places where the crew were hanging out waiting to do the next shot because it was quite cold. And I was looking in the windows and I couldn't really see anyone famous. And this happened for about 2 weeks. I was thinking, well, I can't believe they're filming a major Hollywood film right around the corner from where I work. And I Googled it to see what was going on. And they're filming the new Bourne film.
Oh.
And and the next day I actually saw Matt Damon outside a shop
oh, wow.
doing a scene in like a Land Rover. And I was like literally 10 feet away from him. You could get relatively close. They didn't really close the streets as much as I expected them to, and it's quite weird because obviously now, although I like those films anyway, I'm really excited to see this new one, to see the locations they're filmed around where I work. And I think that's what's so good about this, is that there are parts of this film where anyone that's been to Disney World can go, oh yeah, I know where this is. It's not just a clever lookalike location. It's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the aspects of for me and being so comfortable with this. And please don't take offense to this, Ben, but Ben's he's kind of a Disney nerd, and I mean that in the best possible way. In that, if I'm going to, because it wasn't when I auditioned for this, I didn't know that that's what I was auditioning for. It wasn't okay.
We did not. Yeah, we didn't tell people that it was a Disney movie when we held auditions. That was a second step that we took people aside and explained them the plot of the film before they accepted.
Is it true that you said the audition was for Star Wars Episode 7?
That's what I thought I was going in for. No, it's and the sides, everything had been, the sides, the audition sides had been altered, so the names that might give it away and the kind of the storyline was changed. So I had no idea. And then when Ben had called me, I don't remember how long it was, and asked me if I'd be interested in coming in and reading with some actresses that are they're going to play my daughter, etc., and basically saying that he was offering me the job. And I said, absolutely. And so then he handed me the script, and it said the Florida Project was the pseudo name for it. And when I looked, and then he told me, what their itinerary was, what their objective was, and he said, "Are you in?" And I said, "Absolutely." He says, "Well, they're people that may, in the community at Disney that, if you have a future there, that some people may say something about it." And I wasn't in any kind of position like that I was going to that was going to affect me not taking the role. but going into, like some of the pre-production on my end, when working with him and some of the character work is, sitting and realizing how passionate this man was about this. And this is truly piggybacking on what you were saying about seeing the locations. And this really is a film for, yes, anybody can watch it and enjoy it, but this is truly for Disney fans. There's things in there that I had no idea what I was, like what references there were. These references were that people who are in the know and are familiar with, just Disney fans, they will know. So that's to be involved with a project over the about the last 14 years, whether it's film or theater. One of the best things for me is to be involved with a project where the captain, if you will, has such enthusiasm and such passion, because it's infectious. And so in that, you're willing to put yourself in their hands. And he's just so passionate about telling this story. And as being a Disney fan and bringing his nerdism out in the best possible way, Ben, and please don't take that as an insult by any means. But it was absolutely lovely to be a part of that. And I wanted to do it right in that sense, or the best that I could, because he was so passionate about this project and so dedicated to it, and the story that he wanted to tell, and the reasons why he wanted to tell it. And to me, I think that projects like that, because since then, fortunately, I have been involved with several films, 2 features since, and a half dozen shorts. And it's a beautiful thing to have somebody at the helm that is as passionate about what they are doing and the story that they are wanting to tell.
I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing to say. And to be honest as well, I think anybody that's listening to this podcast would probably think of themselves as a Disney nerd anyway.
Yeah, so I don't think you're going to offend anybody with that one.
Yeah, I think you're pretty safe with that comment, to be honest. Ben, just trying to wrap up shortly, but when is this expecting to be released? I know there's a thing at the end of the trailer, but what's the game plan once this is all said and done?
Well, actually, once we finish this podcast, I'm going to meet with my editor and see if he's finally got that rough cut together. But that aside, we are looking to finish up and hopefully have a screening for the Kickstarter backers towards the end of 2016. And that would put us on track to be sort of on the film festival circuit in early 2017. Which would kind of get it out there and get it hopefully playing in several places across the country, in the US and possibly overseas, where people could go and see it.
Well, we'd definitely like to be a part of that, because am I right in thinking there's a scene, I'm not sure if it's made the final cut, I mean, obviously you'll get more of an idea after you've recorded this show, but isn't there one where Daniel's character is actually listening to DisAfterDark on his way to the park, isn't that right?
We can probably add that in if that's something that especially if there's a little sponsorship money. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but
we'll get our people to speak to your people, and we'll see what we work out.
You can put it in just after the Olaf scene, because it's Walt's frozen head, and we know that anything that's got frozen in it must have Olaf in it.
Correct.
So just the DisAfterDark scene can go right after that.
Yeah, that's about right. but no, I mean, I think I speak on all of us here that we've been excited with what we've seen so far and what you have been able to tell us about the film. And I've actually changed my thing today, my status, as being I want it to be the 17th of December already. That's a completely different reason. But probably my second most anticipated film of next year is going to be this one.
Beautiful.
Oh, we are very happy with that.
To be fair, I've not seen the Captain America Civil War trailer yet. So maybe that might just be a little bit ahead.
Well, if that beats us, I guess I'd be all right with that.
As long as we have comparable box offices, that's really what.
There you go. That's it.
Well, I was gonna ask that because has the cinematic failure of, and I mean the release at the cinema by that, of Tomorrowland, a film named after a part of the park. Has that in any way worried you that you may not hit the same box office numbers as that?
If we hit half of Tomorrowland's box office, no. In all seriousness, we're really planning, after we go through the film festival cycle, a VOD release. That's probably going to be a self-distributed deal. In this day and age, it's sort of, you either are a blockbuster or you're not, and everything that's not is kind of still able to be out there and exist, but not kind of operating at that same level.
It's you know what? It's absolutely amazing. I just watched, and it did take me a little while, but I just watched the new Jurassic World last night. And you know what? It was entertaining. It was. It really was. But the amount of money that film made, it's staggering. Didn't it? It toppled like $1 billion.
Oh yeah.
In that sense. And, not to hop on any kind of, but you just think about, like the budgets that some of these films are given. And I'm piggybacking on what you said, Ben, about it's either a blockbuster or not. What is it? One of these films have already been slated a budget of $1 billion. And it is when I'm watching, this new Jurassic. And it was good. I was entertained. I won't, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about it here, obviously, but it's not something that's going to stick with me. And to think that a movie that had made so much money, and that there are stories out there that beautiful stories that it just doesn't, that people don't necessarily see because of the fact that, okay, well, it's not a $400 million film. And I don't know what I'm 100% trying to say here. It's this. It's in the sense of, yes, there is either blockbuster or not, and that's too bad, because people need to realize that there is still good film out there, and it doesn't have to cost $400 million to make. Is all I'm trying to say.
I was going to say, I think the point you're trying to get to there really is that the amount of money that's spent on the film doesn't always demonstrate how good a film is. And I really enjoyed Jurassic World, but let's be honest, it's a roller coaster summer blockbuster. It's what it is. Everyone I know that's watched it moans about the story. I think the story is fair enough, but let's be honest, with any kind of film like that, it's a popcorn film. You want to sit there, you don't want to think too much about it, you want to be entertained, you want to watch the effects, you want to watch the spectacle of it all, but you're not going there to watch this amazing story, because at the end of the day, when you're spending $200 million making a film, you just want it to make sure it's entertaining. The storyline is second for a lot of these films. I mean, Jesus, look at the Transformers franchise. And how much money they make and how much money they cost to make. But they're successful films. And I think one thing that's good about services like Netflix and things of that nature is that, it gives sometimes a chance for these films that weren't able to be able to open across thousands of screens. And sometimes wouldn't get a cinema release at all. The ability to be on a service where you've already paid your money. If you want to go and, if somebody sees The Adventures of Walt's Frozen Head come up and thinks, oh, that title sounds quirky, they haven't got to think, well, I'm going to now lay down $10 to watch it if they're watching on Netflix or something like that, because it's there to watch.
Absolutely.
So that isn't a barrier. When you've got VOD, that is a bit more of a barrier, but I still don't think it's as much as a barrier, because I've got a family of 4. If we want to go to the cinema, we won't yet. My son's still too young. But if the 4 of us wanted to go to the cinema, we're looking at a good, 30, 40 quid sometimes to go. So you're looking, $50, $60 for a family to go and watch a film. When you've got to make a choice about going to see a film and you're spending that kind of money to see it, you've got to really think, is this experience going to be worth the money? If you are going to pay $10 to watch something on VOD, it's a much lower risk to do so.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's it's just because in order for these $400, $500, $600 million they've got to bring in that money somehow, and it is like you said, it's so expensive to go and to see a movie. I went to see Mad Max in 3D with a friend of mine, and I bought the tickets in advance, and that was almost $70. Now, granted, I knew what I was getting into, but just exactly like you said, I knew that I was going to go in and see this amazing 3D spectacle. I knew exactly what was going on. So, what you're saying, it is absolutely valid. And there's what are you gonna what do I want to go and spend that money on? Do take a chance on something or something that it has been marketed? And so so a film like this, I think that marketability is 100%. It's through fans, fans sharing and just like yourself being so excited to see. And if we can get that enthusiasm, I just hopefully it will spread and be infectious, and everybody will look forward to seeing it.
No, absolutely. And as someone that's just spent about $65, $70 on tickets to go and see Star Wars in laser IMAX, then there's certain films when that's acceptable.
Yes.
But and I'm taking it this isn't going to be aiming for an IMAX release. You've not filmed it with IMAX cameras or expecting to blow it up.
Unfortunately, no. IMAX is probably a little beyond our resolution. So.
No, it's great. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on and talking about it as much as you have. Just before we wrap up the show, do you want to have another plug?
Sure. I just want to let people know where they can find me, and that's on Twitter at Walt's Frozen with no O head. At Twitter, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Walt's Frozen Head. And there's also waltsfrozenhead.com. Both the Facebook and the website have more information about the film. The Twitter account is Walt's uncensored opinions about life, the company, and everything else that's going on.
And is there a Kickstarter? There's not a Kickstarter currently, but is there another Kickstarter coming, did you say? Or
yes, it really depends on how some sort of Walt casting comes around, but if we find the right person for Walt, then we're going to be looking at some potential post-production finishing funds that we'll be looking to raise, and hopefully giving people just excellent perks and rewards to go along with those.
Have you, I take it you're still waiting for Tom Hanks to confirm if he's going to redo the role?
We thought about that, but then we thought, he's so iconic, and why do we want someone iconic for Walt? We need someone who can inhabit and be Walt. So
I'm to be honest, I'm just gutted that he's not from New York, because I would have put myself forward for that role. But I don't think Walt ever went, I want a cup of coffee. So for that reason alone, I just I don't think that's my audition. I don't think I'm going to go anywhere, and that's completely fine. Daniel, if people want to learn more about yourself, have you got a Twitter or Facebook?
Daniel_Cooksley. Actually, let me strike that. It's Cooksley_Daniel. That's how you can follow me on Twitter, and just Daniel Cooksley Facebook. Yeah, and then Walt's Frozen Head. I'm on board. So anything if you wanted to get a hold of me or find anything that I was doing, you could just trace your way through Ben and the film.
Cracking.
That's great.
And so it's almost time for us to call time, gentlemen, please. If anyone wants to contact the show, again, it's www.DisAfterDark.com. I don't know if I did too many W's there. Who cares? Or Facebook.com/DisAfterDark.
Yep. Twitter at DisAfterDark. Email us at podcast@DisAfterDark.com.
That's the one I normally do.
Yeah, I know. Well, I thought you were just mixing it up. I thought you were testing me, and I've only had two-siders, so I was able to keep that thread in my head. So
not only have you only had two-siders, I've only had one can of Cherry Pepsi Max, and I'm losing the plot. So what happens with great power comes great responsibility. Guys, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks for having us.
No, any time, and of course, as the project goes on, once you've got a wall, when your Kickstarter comes back up, please feel free to come back on the show and let us know. I'm sure our listeners are as excited about this film as we are.
Beautiful.
Yeah, really
Beautiful.
looking forward to it.
Thank you for having us.
No, not at all. It's been a pleasure. And I think, Paul, if I'm correct, within the next few weeks, as I mentioned, of course, the other big film event is Star Wars, and I think we're trying to do some special episodes.
We are, yeah.
So I think the original plan was for us to do 6 mini episodes for each one of the films, and then we thought about maybe just doing 2 longer episodes about the 2 trilogies.
I think that's good. Yeah.
Well, I do, but I'm going to throw it out there. So it's always good to have some opinions from the audience. I mean, I can see where this could go. We might get one response, and that's fine. But if the audience have a preference on what you'd like to hear, we'll see if we can get that done in time. But yes, so certainly there'll be some Star Wars content coming out very soon. Apologies if you don't like Star Wars, but if you don't like Star Wars, what can we say? And if we other than the Star Wars stuff, we will see everyone in about 2 weeks' time. Thank you for joining us, and good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good night,
Take
everyone.
care.
And as Mr. Boniface would say,